Hey everybody. Prior to this interview starting, I want to introduce Peter Csere. And Peter is one of the co-founders of it is Terra Frutis and Fruithaven EcoVillages. And they're both located in Ecuador at the foothills of the Amazon. And those are two primarily raw vegan and fruitarian eco-villages. I think the vast majority of people eat mostly raw vegan fruitarian, and I think they're able to grow all their own food. And I think it's about community of about maybe I think 5 or 6 people, if I can remember, you said correctly. So the interview is about 30 minutes long, so it's a good interview, and it's a long one. So grab a snack, grab some fruit, enjoy it. Peter offers a lot of value. He's got experience creating eco-villages. So he offers a lot of wisdom and knowledge, perspective, and experience to this interview. So hope you guys enjoy it. Like I said, grab some fruit, relax, and just take this opportunity to learn. All right.
Yeah, so this is going to go on my new YouTube channel. It's called Path to Paradise.
Yeah.
And it's basically, my couple and I, my partner and I, have just started this YouTube channel. And what it is we're going to be documenting our journey into basically creating what, you've already done. And
Okay.
in creating an eco-village, creating fruit forests and creating a natural system, and I think one of the things that I liked when it first stood out to me about your ideas was a system of decentralization. I think I read that before.
Yeah.
And I want to actually tell the people who are watching this right now, I'm going to be putting this on YouTube, that this is our first conversation. We've really never talked before.
Right. I have no idea who you are.
Okay. Yeah, we are friends on Facebook.
Yeah, I knew that.
Okay. So yeah, let's get into it. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean about decentralization?
Well, decentralization basically, obviously it's the opposite of centralization, where you have, say, a central governing body or a central entity controlling everything to the outside of it. Decentralization is more you have a bunch of little autonomous pockets that each are sharing a lot of power. And it can be applied to a lot of different things, from governments to corporations to communities. And the important thing to realize is that you can never have 100% decentralization or 100% centralization. There's something called natural hierarchies or natural centralization. For example, people who have more knowledge in a certain subject should be expected to naturally have a little bit more authority in that subject. People are going to listen to them more. Mm. So we shouldn't strive to reach absolute 100% decentralization where no one person has even a tiny, tiny bit more power or authority than another, because we need a bit of centralization here and there to be functional. The thing we want to avoid is complete centralization, where we have like in the context of a community, like a governing group that's in charge of the community, or 1 or 2 people. In communities where there's one landowner, you could have issues where there's 1 or 2 landowners who feel like they can control all the community members and the volunteers and whoever else is there. And that's when you run into situations where there's a community that's been around for 20 years and there's still only 4 or 5 people living there. Usually what you see there is 1 or 2 landowners, and they try to control everyone else, and so nobody really stays very long. And one more thing I should add is a great resource to look into for learning about decentralization. To start off, there's a book called The Starfish and the Spider. The Starfish and the Spider, and it's available. Actually, it's not like it's under a free license. So if you go into a search engine and type The Starfish and the Spider, you'll find the book free PDF. It's like a free license or something, and it's a really great, gives a lot of examples through a lot of different companies and organizations. Even Alcoholics Anonymous is a great example of how they managed to apply decentralization within their groups.
Yeah, just thinking about it, if there's a one group or 1, 2 people who have all of the power, or who are basically extremely dominant, that's not really a functional community. There's not like an exchange of ideas. There's not really. It just doesn't, which it doesn't seem right. Which makes me really think that decentralization in more aligning with our natural hierarchy of things just it makes a lot more sense to me. So I really, yeah, I'm a big fan of entertaining those ideas. So yeah, I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's very important for sure to keep it in mind.
And I think I wanted to talk about just kind of. I think there's a lot of people, especially in the fruitarian community and the raw vegan community, who really want to, come together, including myself, in community and really just live a life where we're, maintaining the fruit orchards and we are, living in harmony with nature in our natural habitat, back to the tropics. And I think you are someone who's been into that for quite a while. And I'm not 100% sure. How long have you been into this? How long have you been thinking about, and kind of when did you get started with these ideas of wanting to, get back to the tropics, fruitarian, and
Well, it started a while ago. Basically, to give it kind of a brief timeline, I'm 29 years old right now,
Okay.
and when I was 21, that's when I first went vegan, and then when I was about 22, that's when I first got into raw veganism and eating a lot of fruits. And maybe like just a few months after I started learning about that, it kind of hit me all of a sudden that I needed to get to the tropics and start growing my own food. It didn't make much sense to stay in kind of a winter climate. And I know a lot of people who are kind of hit with that same realization. Surprisingly, a lot of people never get hit with that realization. They're just perfectly fine just living in a city for the rest of their life and buying, organic bananas from Whole Foods or whatever. That's fine. No reason to judge those people, but that's not for me. So I gave myself like a year and a half. I set a deadline that I had to get to the tropics, no matter what it took. And a few kind of opportunities arose that were okay, but less than ideal. And then eventually, what happened was, when I was 24, I moved to Florida to help out my friend Robert's farm, and he was starting a permaculture farm there. And then a year after that, or 8 to 9 months after that, I went down to Ecuador. That's when I started along with Jason and Jay. That's when we started Terra Frutis. And a year and a half after that, we got another opportunity to get more land, and that's when we started Fruithaven. So I've been kind of in the tropics growing fruit for about 5 years.
Okay. And when you say these opportunities arose for you getting land, was it kind of, you just knew somebody who said, wow, there's this awesome opportunity, here's this a great chunk of land where you can buy it, or was it an opportunity, do you mean like you actively thought out, different regions where you could possibly go to? Were you looking into Southeast Asia, you were looking into Central America, and you were searching for land that way, or did it just kind of come to you through somebody that you knew?
Well, a bunch of different opportunities came through people that I knew, and they were all different types of opportunities. What people should realize is that once you realize that you're going to do something, once you actually really decide that you're going to make the sacrifices that are necessary to do something, opportunities just start popping up as long as you have an open mind. And your job is to kind of sift through them. So, for example, I had some friends who said I should move to Hawaii and get on the EBT situation and live on the beach. And
Yeah.
okay. And then I had a friend who knew somebody in Arizona who had a big farm that needed someone to take care of it. There was a fruit orchard. I wouldn't own any land there, but it was kind of that's a situation that I'll consider. And then there were one or two other random things. And then there was Florida. I had a friend who had bought land down in Florida and was looking for someone to stay there and help out. I ended up going with that. And there was also some cheap land available in Florida at the time. So when I was down there, I was thinking about that. But it turned out that zoning and permits and things like that was just way too expensive to develop in the United States right now. Unless you have millions of dollars sitting around, it's almost not worth it. So at the time, I had another friend, Jason, who had been traveling around. He went to Hawaii, Mexico, Peru, Ecuador, and was searching around for land because the idea being that we wanted to buy land and start a community. and he had a list of a lot of criteria that he was looking at that would kind of make the perfect land for what we were looking to do. And so eventually he found the land in Ecuador, and I went down there because I saw a lot of ideal things about that situation. Now, at the time, I wasn't necessarily expecting to buy land down there. I knew it was a possibility, but at the time I also didn't have very much money. And then over the next few years, I worked and saved and got some more money, and then I was able to buy some land. But that's another thing about the Ecuador situation. It was the only opportunity where there was actually a good chance of me being able to buy land in the future, whereas Florida, Arizona, Hawaii, it was just like a dead no,
I forgot to. I just realized that I forgot to kind of introduce you and talk about introduce you like the one of the founders, right? Are you not the founder of Terra Frutis or Fruithaven?
One of the founders, yes.
Okay, yeah, and that's for everybody who's watching. That's a I would describe it as a permaculture eco-village community right now of primarily, is it raw vegan or fruitarian or just vegan?
Both, yeah, raw vegan and fruitarians, yeah.
Okay.
There are some, no, it's not like a totally strict thing. There are some people that eat cooked food occasionally there, but we try to keep it to a bare minimum, and most of the people there are raw, most are all of the time. So it's an important value that we have.
Okay. And remind me what you were talking about before I had introduced you.
Well, I just kind of got into listed through the opportunities of various places around the world that I was considering going to, and the criteria I used to decide upon them, and then of course the issue of buying land and going down to Ecuador.
Okay. So you're in Ecuador. Oh, you're not in Ecuador right now, but
yeah, most of the time, 99% of the time, I'm in Ecuador. This week, I just happened to be in Connecticut.
Okay.
It's a bit cold here.
Yes, I think many people right now are trying to get out of the cold and back into the tropics right now.
Yes.
Me.
A noble pursuit.
So had you looked at did you look at Southeast Asia at all? Did you look at the legal issues and the pricing and all these different things?
Yeah.
Land?
I considered it. I never traveled there, but I know a lot of people who did, and I definitely considered it. And I'm not going to say that Southeast Asia is a bad idea for people starting a community. I think there are definitely people that could make it work there, and there are people that have. However, for me, what I considered was that the land in a place like Thailand, for example, there's not a lot of land available, and the land that is available is very expensive. Mm-hmm. And there are also some places in Southeast Asia where the land is very cheap. However, in general, throughout Southeast Asia, it's very difficult for foreigners to buy land, and usually impossible to do it without putting someone else's name on the title, which is legally sketchy. In fact, there were some people raising money just a few months ago for a community in Thailand, a raw vegan community that they were supposedly forming. But when we looked into it a little more, we found that there was no legal situation where they could actually put people's names in the title in a secure way. So we stopped recommending that people donate money to them because they were asking for $50,000 in donations. And it was kind of a scam because they couldn't do what they said they were trying to do. So the legal situation is really important to look into. And so for me, that kind of ruled Southeast Asia out, the land prices in some areas and the difficulty in foreigners for buying land. But the other thing is I'm coming from the U.S., and it's a very expensive flight ticket and a lot of travel, and South America is just much closer. So. Okay.
And did you find that there is quite a bit of land available in Ecuador, Central America, Southern America?
Yeah, I can't speak too much for the other parts of South Central America, but I know for Peru and Ecuador, there's tons of land. In my area, almost every farm is for sale. There's no buyers. So it's totally a buyer's market. Everyone wants to sell their farm. Land prices are still very low, and in a lot of the rural areas. There are some areas in Ecuador where it's very expensive, like in Vilcabamba, places where a lot of Westerners and North Americans and Europeans have already gone and started buying land in mass. Land prices have gone up in those areas to reflect that. But yeah, there's still lots of land available at some pretty good prices.
So why is everybody trying to sell?
It's just a general thing where, Ecuadorian families who live out in the jungle, they want, they want a better life for their children, and they incorrectly assume that that better life includes moving to a city and putting them through state university and getting normal office jobs and all that. So there's just a general migration from the rural areas to the suburbs, to the small city, and then once they've been in the small city, they get tired of that and they want to move to the big city. And then once they've been in the big city for a while, they want to move to the United States. It's just a general thing where they want to move from a rural to an urban environment, and we want to move from an urban to a rural environment because we've already been doing the urban thing for generations, and we know it doesn't lead us where we want to go.
Right. Okay. So, how about issues of citizenship? Did you find it is fairly easy to get a citizenship in Ecuador?
It's easy if you meet one of the requirements. So to compare, for example, to compare the immigration laws of U.S. and Ecuador, everyone assumes that it's very hard to get in the U.S. and it's very easy to get into Ecuador. Actually, that's somewhat true, but to get into the U.S., it's pretty easy in that if you have a lot of money and patience, no matter who you are or what your exact situation is, you could eventually do it. Whereas in Ecuador, if you don't meet one of the requirements, you can't do it. It doesn't matter, you know. That being said, if you have a lot of, there's the investment visa, there's the professional visa, if you have a college degree. I won't go through it all right now because it's complicated. And I already have a whole video talking about just that. But it's fairly easy as long as you meet one of the requirements, you can do it. And if you don't, you can stay here 6 months a year on tourist visas.
Okay. And so when you first got the land, how developed was the land when you first got it?
Well, there's the Terra Frutis lands and there is the Fruithaven lands. For Terra Frutis, there's two big lots. One was like 50 hectares, the other was like 80 hectares. And the smaller one was just lots and lots of pasture and a ramshackle wood cabin that we used to the best of our ability. And we built a lot more houses. And the upper lot was mostly primary forest and like 2 hectares of cacao. Fruithaven was a similar kind of situation where almost the whole farm had been cow pasture like 50 years ago, but most of that has overgrown since then. But it had like a nice big wood house, beautiful 60-year-old wood house that was still in pretty good shape. We had to fix it up a bit. A big workshop, and most of the property was just forest or pasture. And the same thing with Fruithaven 2 and Fruithaven 3, because now we have three big lots. Same kind of thing, one house, and then lots of forest and pasture and some fruit trees.
And remind me, Fruithaven in Ecuador and Terra Frutis, that's in Ecuador as well?
Yeah, well, we pronounce it Terra Frutis, although I don't know what the actual Etruscan pronunciation of Frutis is, but yeah, they're both in southeast Ecuador. They're kind of like on the edge of the Amazon region, so you still have kind of like an Amazon, a nice, it's actually more comfortable climate than the Amazon. It's not as humid, and you don't have like the gigantic snakes and bats with 6-foot wingspans, so it's like you get the good things of the Amazon and not the bad things. And they're right near each other. So Fruithaven is like 20 minutes down the river from Terra Frutis, or it's about 45 minutes in bus or driving if you go that way.
Sure. Okay. And so you got it, and were you able to, the purpose was to reforest with fruit trees, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Our plan is to plant lots and lots of fruit trees. And eat the fruits, and then sell the extra fruit, of course.
Sure. Have you been selling the extra fruit?
Yeah. Not just extra, but also there's fruits that we don't want. For example, lots and lots of Fruithaven had lots of plantains planting. We like ourselves some plantains occasionally, but we're not like plantain maniacs.
Yeah.
So we just pretty much just sell nearly all the plantains, and we eat all the other stuff like the bananas and the oranges and pineapples, and we've planted all the exotic fruits, of course. We have like 60 or 70 varieties of fruits planted. Nice. Most of them aren't fruiting yet because we've only been there for 2 years. Okay. Terra Frutis just recently got their first meringue last year, and now the meringue tree is flowering again. And we're starting to get jackfruit trees fruiting there. So Terra Frutis is like a couple of years ahead of Fruithaven in that regard. So we started off with just the fruits that the farms already had. And now we're starting to have a slow trickle of all the nice exotic fruits that we planted.
And
if they would have cut down that person from 100,000, they would have won 100,000, right?
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Sounds.
So we'll say the other day one person won 100,000.
And
20 days later, 5 people happened to win the same day.
you said so how many? So you said you have banana. fruit trees are actually fruiting right now, and what percentage of the land are you trying to basically turn it into a total fruit forest?
Yeah, the fruit forest is the general idea. There's a lot of different like styles of fruit forest that you can do. You can have a canopy style fruit forest where you basically just plant fruit trees and let them grow gigantic. And then you could have like a managed fruit orchard style fruit forest where you have, fruit trees planted on contour line that are grafted and pruned, and with lots of companion plants and permaculture techniques. And both styles are great and equal. And with a managed fruit orchard, you get a lot more fruit, which is important for feeding the community. Whereas with an untended fruit forest style of planting, you get less fruit, but you get more of an ecosystem and more of a big forest. So we're trying to do a lot of both.
Okay.
And you asked like what fruits we have and what's fruiting right now. Well, right now it's not the season for the seasonal fruit, but there's some things that we have year round, like bananas and papayas. When we're steadily increasing the number of banana varieties we have. Like we're getting like Namwa bananas and ice cream bananas and all that. Once the season starts, we're gonna have lots of abiu. We're gonna have ice cream beans. We're gonna have Rollinia. We're gonna have Inyaku, which is this really nice wild avocado type thing. We're gonna have lots of oranges, mandarins, lemons, citrus fruits. Oh, pineapples are also year round. The peanut butter fruits randomly whenever it wants. We're gonna have blackberry jam fruit and miracle berry and there's a lot of stuff that I'm forgetting. So it's really just a lot of stuff that's going to start coming in the next year.
Are you guys able to? So how many people do you have at the community?
It varies, and like right now at Fruithaven, like for the past few months, we've had between 5 and 8 people, and depending on who's there and who's not. And in Terra Frutis, it's been around the same. It's been up to 10. It's been up to 13 or 15 at times, and then it'll go down to like 6. What happens is we have like a core group that's steadily growing. Like the core group starts at 1, 2, 3, and it steadily grows.
Yes.
And then on top of that, we have like visitors and volunteers that are coming and going.
Yeah, and are you guys able to sustain yourselves with the fruit that you have growing on your land?
Theoretically, at both places, if we had 3 to 4 people living there, then yeah, we could. Once you get more than that, it starts to be a bit of a strain. Really, the issue though more is the type of fruit, because at Fruithaven we could probably feed 6 people with all the plantains and bananas that we have. The problem is most people don't want to eat plantains and bananas all the time, so that's why we're eager for all the other fruits that we planted to start fruiting, because they were going to have abundance of a lot of other stuff. So if I would say for a small number of people, we would have enough in terms of calories to sustain that many people. What happens in practice is we sell lots of the plantains and then buy other stuff.
Okay. And is that how you guys are sustaining yourselves, is through the selling of the fruit that you guys do grow?
Not really. There is some income that comes from that, but most people who are trying to make money do other stuff. Like there are people that teach English online. There are people who do other work online. Like we've had some web developers in the community and computer programmers, like digital nomad type of people. We've had people teach English locally to Ecuadorians. We've had various other things. We've had people grow plants in the nursery and sell plants, which can be pretty lucrative. Especially if we have like nice rare grafted varieties of things that you can sell for $10 to $20 per plant. So some people have been doing that. We have people who help with like administrative things like property purchases and management of projects, and they can make commissions based on that. In general, people who are like hardworking and have a good work ethic can pretty easily sustain themselves. And then there are people who are trying to plant orchards of for example, kari, carambola, or other specialty grafted fruits that they can sell at the market. Nobody's been doing that for that long, so we don't have any like great success stories. But I'm sure it's going to happen soon. We can't. The thing to remember is when we sell plantains and bananas and pineapples, those are all the fruits that our neighbors, all the other farmers in the area are producing en masse. So there's not a very good market price for those. It's not very lucrative to do. That's like the bottom of the barrel in terms of how much money you can make growing fruit around here. Once we start getting meringues and sancoyas and black sapote and a lot of other stuff and mame sapote, that's when it'll be a lot more possible for people just to grow fruit and sell it and make money that way.
And have you found that your neighbors and the locals and natives, have they been hostile at all?
No, not usually. There, of course, in any area there's bad people. So certainly there's been the occasional bad person, but no, in general, people are very welcoming and very friendly and very happy. And most of us speak Spanish, so that helps a lot because if a bunch of people, foreigners, start moving into an area and they don't speak the language, people get wary of them, and you got to kind of understand that because they have kids and families and they want to keep everyone safe. And if they can't talk with us, they don't know us. They don't know what kind of people we are. So we make it pretty well known that when people come down here, we want them to make an effort to learn Spanish. And so far, that's worked out pretty well. So we're very friendly with our neighbors.
Yeah. Um, and I'm just trying to. What tips would you have for someone who wants to create a community?
Well, let's see. There's a lot of tips. First off, I would recommend reading a book called "Creating a Life Together" by Diana Leaf. So that's again called "Creating a Life Together" by Diana Leaf, like the word leaf with an E at the end. And she basically went around the world to a lot of different intentional communities and interviewed a lot of people, not just the successful ones, but also the ones that failed. And she wrote a whole book on basically what causes communities to fail, what causes them to succeed. And it's not focused just on raw vegan communities in the tropics. It's focused on all kind of intentional communities, but you can glean a lot of really important information in there. So I would recommend that definitely people read that book and learn what it actually takes. A lot of times you have people like really idealistic people without much work ethic, no management or leadership experience, have no idea how to handle money or do accounting, have no idea how to handle legal things with buying land, and they just go down and try to start a community, and it ends up being disastrous. And people get screwed over. There are people who have paid in tens of thousands of dollars into these projects, and they get kicked out and they don't get their money back. That's happened to a place in Hawaii. There's other situations. Like right now, there's this guy I'm not going to name because I don't want any drama, but he's in Costa Rica and he just made a video announcing he's going to start a community and he's asking people for between $10,000 and $50,000. He hasn't really given any of the details on legal land ownership, and he has a reputation for borrowing thousands of dollars to people and not paying it back. So that's something where naive people might kind of get into it and think, oh, this guy's starting a community, I'm going to send him all this money. Next thing you know, nothing happened and you don't see your money. So I think anyone who wants to start a community should take it really, really seriously, do their research, understand the amount of work it takes, understand that it takes actual management and leadership and organization and financial accounting and legal work. You can certainly just go down and plop down in the middle of the jungle and start a community without any knowledge, without doing much work. And that's great. And then you're going to have a community 20 years later, there's still just going to be 3 or 4 people there. And if that's what you want, that's fine, But I think people who want like a really successful big community, they need to really be entrepreneurs and figure out how to make it work and do all the research that's necessary.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And one other thing I would add actually is the research, including where you're going to do it, like the legal environment, the land, the weather, the geography, the terrain, the risk of natural disasters in that area, the crime, how much crime there is in that area. There was one community I know of that partly failed because of visa problems. The people that lived there just couldn't get residency. As foreigners, it was very difficult. And then also the person in charge was very bad at handling money. So those 2 things led to the demise of the community pretty rapidly. If they had done their research, which would have included finding a place where residency wasn't so hard and having a person handle the money who was actually good at handling money, then the community might have done well. So there's those things to consider.
Okay. And have you guys been building your own structures? Have you guys been doing it by hand and like a lot of DIY stuff, or have you been hiring people?
Both. Like right now at Fruithaven, we're working on building a community building with ourselves, but then we also have some hired workers, some carpenters who just finished another building. I would say most of the construction right now has been that we hire people to do it. But that's mainly because we're just starting. We don't have that many people. Of the people that are here, only like me and one of the other guys at Fruithaven right now actually has any real experience in carpentry. And it's the same thing at Terra Frutis. There are a couple guys there who have good experience in carpentry, but between everything that we're doing, we can't just put aside 150 hours of our time to build a house when we have to build 10 houses. So that comes down to money versus time. And so a lot of the new construction that's been happening has been hired workers, which is good because it helps the local economy.
Sure.
On the other hand, once the communities have been around for a while, I expect more people are going to be doing more stuff themselves and have more community jobs. And a lot of times, if there's a house repair job that needs to be done, like replacing the wall in the kitchen that we did at Fruithaven like 6 months ago, that was a community effort over time. So there's a lot of both. Yeah.
What's your extended vision for Fruithaven and Terra Frutis? What do you want to happen? What do you want to see?
I mainly just want them to continue to grow. So I want more community members to come. Fruithaven is more geared towards land ownership, but I want Terra Frutis to become that way too. More people have the opportunity to buy into land. We're working on the legal framework. So at Fruithaven, I want to just kind of continue doing group buys, having like 5-10 people get together, do the legal framework, buy the land, and then build their houses on it. Till eventually we're at the point where there's like 50 to 100 people at each community because it's a huge amount of land. But not just limited to those two projects. I want other people to kind of take what we're doing and copy it, If anyone wants to do anything in Ecuador, I'm more than happy to provide all the legal documents that we have and everything that we've done so far for free. Anyone who wants to start similar projects, we're not like protective of anything that we're doing. So I want people to see what we're doing. I want us to create a model that's easily replicable. So anyone, almost anywhere in the world can take this kind of setup in this organization and just plop down somewhere and just do it. And then we'll have a bunch of places just like this that anyone can go to.
Legend. Good man. Yeah, that's really awesome, man. And I think that's these eco-villages in communities will continue to grow, just because I think people are just we're getting so sick that we are like being called and screamed at for a healthier and more natural way of life. I think it's a beautiful vision for people to see. And I think you guys are really doing it and being leaders for the community. So it's very respectable.
Yes, it's definitely turning into a movement, and I hope it continues to do so.
Yeah. And you guys have the Amazon. You guys are hosting the Amazonian Fruit Festival, right? Coming up this January.
Yeah, that's being hosted at Terra Frutis.
Okay. And is there any way people can find out a little bit more information? Do you want to tell us about it? A little bit more about it?
Yeah, so anyone can go to amazonianfruitfestival.com or find it on Facebook. Basically, we're organizing a fruit festival very similar to the others. It's a bit more of a low-budget fruit festival, so we're not paying any speakers $5,000 to show up and talk, but we do have a lot of fun activities, dancing on the river beach, nature hikes, permaculture workshops, things like that. Basically, people are showing up. We're providing them all the fruit they can eat and salads and things like that for the week, having a lot of fun with like-minded people, and they have an option to stay an extra week if they so desire. We're doing a lot of preparation work at Terra Frutis for this to go on. And the goal is to bring people together and let them experience this way of life. And it's the first fruit festival that's actually being hosted on a raw vegan community that's owned and operated by fruitarians. So it's kind of a historic thing. We think it's kind of a unique fruit festival. It's different than the other ones, which are basically on rented farms or campgrounds. And after everyone leaves, that's it. Whereas after everyone leaves for this fruit festival, we just kind of keep going, doing the same thing. And if people want to stay, they can. So.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. Yeah, I think that's. I don't know if we covered it. Is there anything that you want to add?
Well, just I would add that if anyone wants to start a community or join a community like the ones that we already have, I would encourage them to do so. There's nothing stopping you. Maybe the 9-to-5 job that somebody has, or they're their strange attraction to winter weather. But I just want to put out some words of encouragement for anyone who's trying to decide to do that. Just go ahead and do it. Just do what's necessary.
Epic, man. Yeah, that goes right to me because, yeah, that's a big dream of mine is to, create a community. And yeah, I appreciate the leadership that you show. Appreciate
Thanks.
it, man. Yeah. I'm just gonna double check. I took some notes. I mean, I wrote down a few questions that I made sure I wanted to cover. I'm just gonna make sure I covered all that.
Yeah.
I love ham.
Let's see here.
Oh, really? What do they like? Just beef?
So,
Steak? I'm not a steak. I mean, I like steak, but I really love like my wife and my son like ham.
I think
Every so often.
maybe just
Turkey, I like
let's
turkey.
see.
I mean, it's not a big.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're good. And
Okay.
yeah, I appreciate you coming and doing this interview, chatting with me. I think it provides a lot of value to me and probably everybody else who wants to create community or interested in
Yeah, I
this
enjoyed
lifestyle.
it. It's fun to get the word out there, and it was a good interview. So thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome. And if anybody wants to get a hold of you or learn more about Terra Frutis and Fruithaven, what are the websites and or social media accounts that they can do that?
Well, they can go to fruithavenecovillage.com or terrafrutis.com, or which, by the way, is Frutis, not actually like the word fruit in English. And then we have AmazonianFruitFestival.com, and on Facebook, the social media pages are basically the same: Fruithaven EcoVillage, Terra Frutis, and Amazonian Fruit Festival. They're easy to find, and send us a message in any one of those. The email addresses are on all three websites to contact us. So we're always happy to answer people's questions.
All right, Peter. It was great talking to you, my man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I will. Let's keep in touch. And I wish you the best of luck continuing to grow
Thanks.
your community.
Yeah, let me know when the video is up. I want to watch it.
Sure. Yeah, I'll send you the link.
All right.
All right. See you, Peter.
Yeah, take care.